Welcome to BOJTV's trending news for top stories in local, regional and international news, along with the sports and local weather forecast. I'm Carla. Coming up in our local trending news, Health Ministry to spend over $200 million to install elevators in southeastern regional health institutions. Western Jamaican members of Parliament joins Peter Bunting during the launch of presidential campaign in Manchester. Hanover Waiter parishes in motorcycle accident and pillion injured. PNP Party President Dr. Peter Phillips calls on Integrity Commission to release his statutory declarations to the public. Now the details. The Health Ministry has announced that over the next 18 months, it expected to spend over $200 million to install over 40 new elevators in the Southeast Regional Health Institutions. The medical institutions slated to receive new elevators are the National Chest Hospital, Kingston Public Hospital, Spanish Down Hospital, and Bustamante Children's Hospital. The announcement was made on Friday by Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton while delivering the main address at the latest commission in a ceremony held at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital. The new elevator was installed at a cost of over $17 million and is the sixth such a project to be supported by the National Health Fund. President of the People's National Party, Dr. Peter Phillips, is calling on the Integrity Commission to release to the public the summary of his statutory declarations in interest of openness and good governance. The opposition leader says he believes that this is important, that he demonstrates to the country that the architecture of integrity works and that the country can have good governance and clean government. The declaration from the PNP president came after anti-corruption body National Integrity Action expressed their dissatisfaction with the recently tabled integrity report, saying that it lacked the information and financial status of parliamentarians. A motorcyclist is now dead and a pillion admitted to hospital following their involvement in a traffic accident which occurred along the Seaview Drive in Lucy, Hanover, on Sunday night. The dead man has been identified as 27 years old, Linston Malcolm, waiter of Mount Peace District, also in Hanover. Reports by the Lucy police are that about 11 p.m., Malcolm and a male pillion were travelling on a motorcycle towards the direction of the township of Lucy. On reaching the vicinity of Court's Furniture Store, he collided into another motorcycle which was travelling in front of him, and both men were thrown from the motorcycle. They were rushed to hospital where Malcolm was pronounced dead. The management at King Security Company has reported that the two security guards who were involved in the fatal shooting of a teenage boy in Crossroads last Wednesday night have been removed from frontline duty. While the police have released the identity of the teenager as 16 years old Tayshawn Marshall of a Kingston address, it was made public that the security officers involved in the shooting were removed from frontline duty to make way for the investigations. Reports are that shortly after 11:30 p.m. last Wednesday, the security responded to a break-in within the area. On reaching the location, they came upon three teenage boys with whom they had a conversation. Minutes later, one of the guards pulled his firearm and shot Marshall. One of the boys ran while the other security guard held the other teen at gunpoint. An investigation has since been launched into the incident, which is deemed as controversial. Central Manchester Member of Parliament Peter Bunting has been given full support from several members of Parliament across Western Jamaica. Already, West Hanover Member of Parliament Ian Hales and Eastern Westmoreland Luther Buchanan have gone out in full support of Bunting, who went all out on Sunday to launch his Rise United presidential campaign at the Manchester High School. It was a memorable moment for Manchester Central Division as thousands of party supporters from across parishes turned up at the launch and danced to the party's theme song, Turn Up the Thing. Bunting, who turns 59 on September 7, the same day he will be challenging Dr. Peter Phillips for the presidency of the party, told the massive crowd that he was aspiring to the party presidency for two reasons: to transform the country and to transform the party. According to Mr. Bunting, the party must become more organized and must better cater for its workers. He said the party's constitution needs to be simplified and the entire communication needs to be overhauled. Those were your top stories making local trending news. Now join us for news from across the region as well as our international story, sports and local weather forecast. From across the region. A joint operation by Bahamas Immigration Department and Royal Bahamas Defence Force to crack down on human and drug smuggling has nabbed 13 people, including 12 migrants from Europe, East Asia and Latin America and the Caribbean. The migrants of 5 foreign countries, along with a Bahamian, were apprehended aboard a 25-foot go-fast vessel by a Defence Force patrol craft with Defence Force Marines and immigration officials off West and Grand Bahama last Friday. A search of the vessel uncovered 1 Bahamian, 5 Jamaicans, 2 Colombians, 2 Chinese, 2 Haitians, and a Lithuanian on board, along with 17 pounds of marijuana. The captain and occupants of the vessel were taken into custody and handed over to police and immigration officials. In international news, the 4 U.S. congresswomen attacked by U.S. President Donald Trump in tweets widely called racist have dismissed his remarks as a distraction. Representatives Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Rashida Tlaib urged the U.S. people not to take the bait at a news conference on Monday. Mr. Trump had suggested the 4 women, all U.S. citizens, can leave. He has defended his comments and denied allegations of racism. Today, he kept up his tweet attack on the women, accusing them of saying filthy and hate-laced things. The president did not explicitly name the 4 women in his initial Twitter tirade on Sunday, but the context made a clear link to the 4 Democratic women who are known as the Squad. Over in our sporting report, England Knights will play Jamaica in a historic international fixture at the Emerald Headlington Stadium this October as part of both countries' countdown to the 2021 Rugby League World Cup. The match will be played on Sunday, October 28, days after the domestic season concludes, with the Bedford Super League Grand Finale. The Reggae Warriors continue their unlikely rugby league story by beating the USA in Jacksonville last October to secure their first ever World Cup appearance. The fixture against the Knights will therefore work on 2 levels for Jamaica, providing high-quality international experience for their team at one of the host venues for the RLWC 2020, and also a platform for them to connect with the hundreds of thousands of British Jamaicans, the second largest Jamaican population outside the island itself. Carnival Cruise Line has partnered with the Caribbean Maritime Institute, CMU, to recruit employees to fill vacancies on board their fleet of passenger vessels. This is the first cruise line to employ graduates of a university, and for acting president Ibrahim Ajaguna, this demonstrates the integrity of the CMU brand and the confidence international partners have in the university's ability to produce a competent and qualified industrial-ready graduates. This, he says, is as a result of the university remaining focused on its key stakeholders, its students, keeping them as priority while the investigations are being conducted. Ashley Spencer, Senior Recruitment Manager at Carnival, one of the largest and leading cruise lines in customer service, visited the university recently to select new talent for the cohort of candidates who passed a series of psychometric testing, self-assessment, critical thinking and reaction exercises. This is the second major partnership with a cruise line since the start of the year. In March, President and CEO of Royal Caribbean also visited CMU to discuss employment opportunities on board Royal Caribbean International Cruise Line, which could see several CMU students working on board their vessels in the near future. Those were your top stories making the local trending news. Now join us for news from across the region, as well as our international story, sports and local weather forecast. From across the region, the first train using new equipment from China pulled out of Havana Saturday, hauling excited passengers on the start of a 516-mile journey to the eastern end of the island as the government tries to overhaul the country's aging and decrepit rail lines. The 14 gleaming Chinese cars and a locomotive departed the city's central train station and will wind their way through the 9 cities before ending in Guantanamo 15 hours later. It has 4 air-conditioned wagons and a rolling restaurant car. Previously, the trip could take days because of equipment breakdowns and track erosion. It marks the first step of an overhaul Cuba's communist government started earlier last year, repairing some 2,600 miles of aging tracks and dozens of tumble-down stations scattered around the island. But much remains to be done to bring Cuba's ailing rail system up to acceptable standards, with miles of rusting tracks and just a handful of reliably equipped trains. In international news, federal prosecutors preparing for a bail fight today say evidence against financier Jeffrey Epstein is growing stronger by the day after several more women contacted them in recent days to say he abused them when they were underage. Prosecutors say Epstein, 66, is a flight risk and danger to the community and should remain incarcerated until he is tried on charges that he recruited and abused dozens of underage girls in New York and Florida in the early 2000s. His lawyers counter that their client has not committed crimes since pleading guilty to soliciting a minor for prostitution charges in Florida in 2008, and that the federal government is reneging on a 12-year-old deal not to prosecute him. They say he should be allowed to await a trial under house arrest in his $77 million Manhattan mansion with electronic monitoring. On our local weather forecast, insignificant feature, a tropical wave east of Jamaica. The tropical wave is expected to move across the island today. Additionally, there is a low-level jet stream across the central Caribbean. The forecast for this morning will see partly cloudy skies across eastern parishes, mainly fair elsewhere. During this afternoon, scattered showers and thunderstorms mainly across western parishes, windy across southern parishes. Tonight becoming fair. Maximum temperature expected for Kingston as well as Montego Bay today is 34 degrees Celsius. That was BOJTV's trending news, your top local, regional and international stories, as well as a sports report and weather forecast. Until next time, I'm Carla. Thanks for watching.